All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about Suunto's brand new flagship watch, the Vertical 2. This thing is a massive move for the brand, but it also means leaving some old traditions behind. So is this the new king of adventure watches? Let's break it all down.
So, if you're in the market for a new high-end GPS watch, you already know the big names, Garmin, Coros. Well, with the Vertical 2, Suunto isn't just trying to compete anymore. They're aiming to completely change the game, and it's making your choice for that next upgrade, well, a lot tougher. You know, the biggest story here isn't something they added, it's actually what they took away. Suunto has ditched its classic MIP displays, you know, the ones that are always on and look amazing in direct sunlight, for a super bright, really beautiful AMOLED screen. It's a huge strategic shift, and it also means that solar charging is officially gone.
So what's the trade-off here? The original Vertical, that was a purist's watch. It had that MIP display and solar charging for truly elite battery life. The Vertical 2 swaps all that for this stunning AMOLED display that just makes maps and everything else pop. But this brings up the single most important question for any of us who do long-distance stuff. What on earth does this do to the battery?
But before we get to the battery, which is the main event, let's just quickly run through the other big hardware upgrades. You've got that new AMOLED display, of course. There's a brand new LED flashlight. It has a much faster processor inside, a new optical heart rate sensor, and they've bumped the storage up to 32 gigabytes for all your offline maps. Okay, the main event. For years, the deal was simple, right? If you wanted a gorgeous AMOLED screen, you had to sacrifice battery life. And for most adventurers and ultra runners, that was a total non-starter. So, the question is, has Suunto finally cracked the code?
Well, according to one of the most respected reviewers in the game, DC Rainmaker, the answer is a huge, resounding yes. This quote just flips the whole script. Suunto hasn't just managed to compete on battery life, they've set a new, incredibly high bar for what an AMOLED watch can actually do.
And just look at this number, a staggering 65 hours of battery life, with the most accurate, dual-frequency GPS turned on. What's absolutely nuts is that number matches the base battery life of the old Vertical 1. The new screen is so efficient, it basically makes up for not having solar charging at all.
And hey, this isn't just some number they cooked up in a lab. In a grueling 70-kilometer mountain hike, with maps, navigation, and the always-on display all running, the watch only burned 2% battery per hour. That's the real-world proof that this thing can absolutely go the distance.
So, the battery is a monster. But what about the other stuff, the core adventure features? How are the maps? What about the GPS? And, yeah, what about that new heart rate sensor?
While the mapping experience is fantastic, seriously, that new processor makes a huge difference. Maps are smooth, they're detailed, and they look incredible on that AMOLED screen. You get free downloadable offline maps for the entire world, plus cool features like climb guidance to see what's coming up on your route.
And the GPS that powers all that mapping? It's absolutely top tier. There's a solid consensus from basically every major reviewer. From DC Rainmaker to the Quantified Scientist, the dual-band GPS is phenomenal. The 5K runner even called its accuracy among the best, period.
Okay, so we've got legendary battery life, we've got rock-solid GPS. This thing sounds pretty much perfect, doesn't it? Well, let's talk about the one feature that has reviewers completely and totally divided. The new optical heart rate sensor.
Yeah, this is where things get a little complicated. The new sensor they're using, which comes from Xiaomi, seems to be incredibly, well, let's call it person-dependent. For some reviewers and on certain activities, it's a huge improvement. But for others, the performance just varies wildly from one wrist to the next.
And to be blunt, when it's bad, it's really bad. The review from Nikon.ch didn't mince words, calling the performance catastrophic. They highlighted huge issues like cadence lock. That's where the watch gets confused and starts reporting your running steps per minute instead of your actual heart rate. Not good.
And this chart from the Quantified Scientist's review really paints the picture, doesn't it? On his wrist, the sensor was brilliant for indoor cycling, but then for running it was inconsistent, and for outdoor cycling, well, it was poor. The takeaway here is pretty simple. If you need truly reliable heart rate data, you're still going to need a chest strap.
Okay, so with that huge asterisk on the heart rate, let's move on. Let's look at the other big new feature, and of course, the all-important price tag. How does the Vertical 2 really stack up against its rivals?
The new flashlight is a fantastic addition. The hardware itself is great. It's super bright, it has multiple levels, a red light mode, and safety patterns.
If you've ever used a Garmin with one, you know you end up using it constantly. But reviewers like DCR Rainmaker did note that the software controlling it feels a bit rushed, though Suunto says they're working on it.
All right, let's look at the competition. This chart from the 5K runner really puts things into perspective. Check out that GPS battery life, 65 hours. That's beating Garmin's Fenix 8 AMOLED. It has the flashlight, the fast maps, but the real kicker is when you look at the price.
And this is Suunto's trump card. This is where they really make their move. The Vertical 2 starts at $599 for the steel version, or $699 for titanium. The comparable Garmin Fenix 8, it starts at $999. I mean, that is a massive price gap, and it makes the Suunto an unbelievably compelling option from a value perspective.
Okay, let's pull this all together. We've talked about the incredible battery, the fantastic GPS, the, let's call it, temperamental heart rate sensor, and that really aggressive price. So let's put it all together. Who should actually buy this watch?
First, you've got a choice to make within Suunto's own family. The Vertical 2 is built for the adventurer. It's more rugged, it has the flashlight, and that slightly longer battery life. Then you have its sibling, the Race 2, which is aimed squarely at the athlete. It's sleeker, lighter, cheaper, and has a digital crown that's great for workouts.
The 5K runner summed it up just about perfectly. He said, "Adventurers get Vertical 2, athletes get Race 2. It's that simple. If you're spending your time on big days in the mountains or multi-day treks, the Vertical 2 is made for you. If you're more focused on marathons and triathlons, the Race 2 is probably the better fit."
So here it is, the bottom line. You should buy the Suunto Vertical 2 if your absolute top priorities are best-in-class AMOLED battery life, a beautiful screen for looking at maps, and a tough, rugged build that includes a flashlight. And you buy this watch accepting that for truly accurate heart rate data, you're just going to have to pair it with a chest strap. Simple as that. And that really leaves you with one last question to ask yourself. This watch is an incredible companion for the journey itself, for the navigation, for the endurance, but the performance data it gives you about your body might not always be perfect, so you have to decide what matters more to you.